This whole journey in the next 8 episodes that I'm about to talk to you about is about the magic and history of Hollywood, and especially the Oscar times. It is an era that is etched in our minds, aware or not, and shouldn't be forgotten. It should stay with us forever, because it's what started in this small, quaint city. My first experience, really, was not with the Disney movies that I saw as a little girl, although I loved them, but it was seeing a movie with Sophia Loren that my father brought me to, in Rome, Italy, when the cinemas still had wooden chairs, and I saw her with her hands on her hips, and she had so much power as a woman, and there was so much emotion, and she gave me so much emotion that I knew in that moment I needed to be a creative person, if not an actress. And I really needed to work with that director. I did work one day with that director, and I did become an actress. But this is not my story. What I'm really sharing with you about is the impact that cinema, movies, have had on all of us, aware or not, and how they brought so many people together in an era where it wasn't easy, and yet so many came from all over the world to create from a small city a big business. From Orson Welles to Alfred Hitchcock, from David Lean to Fritz Lang, from Marlene Dietrich to Greta Garbo, from Harold Lloyd to Stan Laurel, from Bob Hope to, my gosh, it goes on and on. Just like today, it's a little easier. But Helen Mirren came from England, Emma Watson, Keira Knightley, and then we have people from Australia, like Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman. So it went from a small town to a bigger town. But we can't forget that glamorous era, ever, because that's where it all started. So I hope that you have fun as much as I did in 25 years in Hollywood, and you learn a little bit about my Hollywood, Joe's Hollywood. Joe's Hollywood. This is the absolute temple of the history of cinema in Hollywood. Located on the Walk of Fame at Hollywood Boulevard, it was inaugurated in 1927. Not far from the historic Roosevelt Hotel, the first venue of the Oscar ceremony. From 1944 to 1947, the Chinese Theater also hosted the Academy Awards event, and today it still holds the world record for movie premieres. In fact, the term red carpet originated in this theater. Top stars in Hollywood history have walked across the unmistakable red carpet during movie premieres, up until the present with The Revenant and Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Yet, not only red carpets have made this theater unique. You're not a star if you haven't left your handprints and signed your name on the cement around the entrance. A must-see for tourists from around the world. And the Chinese Theater continues to surprise us. Its president is a young woman, only in her 30s, Alwyn Height Kushner, also co-owner of the theater.
About 4.5 years ago, when Warner Brothers and Paramount were dissolving the Mann Theater chain and kind of selling off the various theaters, a group of independent film producers and executives and companies kind of came together to take over the theater. And so that's kind of how the position came about for myself. I had actually worked with the owners of the theater in a different capacity as a producer.
The history of the Chinese theater is intertwined with that of hundreds of movies that were screened here for their first time and by the stars who gave life to the imagination of Hollywood. This history that is meticulously preserved in a building just a few miles from Hollywood Boulevard. Here we are in the archives of the Academy. It's not the first time I've been here, and each time it's an overwhelming emotion. What do I feel? Extreme gratitude towards the families of the stars, but also towards directors like Hitchcock, Cecil B. DeMille, all the way to Jim Jarmusch, who donated priceless treasures to the history of cinema. In fact, the Academy Archives preserve the history of filmmaking, one that is just over a century old, yet one that is full of magic. It's the history of cinema that fuses with that of the city of Los Angeles. Now we'll meet Linda Harris, the director, who will explain to us what it means to be the keeper of the most important film collection in the world.
The library has been here as part of the Academy almost from the beginning, from 1928, we know it started, and they've been collecting material to document the art and industry of motion pictures, all its aspects. And here we are in the photo archive where we have over 13 million photos, documenting from the very early days up to current productions. Just for example, right here we're looking at a picture of Gloria Swanson in Male and Female, which was 1919, a Cecil B. DeMille film. Quite an extraordinary photograph by a famous photographer, Carl Struess. We have some wardrobe and makeup tests here for The Wizard of Oz. This was a dress that Dorothy did not end up wearing in the film, but it was attested at the early period. Here is an interesting shot for the Tin Man, because that's not who played it in the final film. This was Buddy Epson. He apparently turned out to be allergic to the makeup that they put on him, and so it was recast.
Has some pictures also. Matt Severson, who is
photograph curator.
He's the photograph curator at the library.
These are some great photographs of Marion Francis, who, she was a screenwriter, a producer, and kind of a major player in Hollywood. So these are some lovely portraits of her, and with some bearing her original signature in that.
And Linda, tell us more. Tell us more about all the secrets.
Well, here's a beautiful portrait of Elizabeth Taylor. It's hard to believe, but she was only 16 at the time of this photograph. And next to her is an amazing print of Rudolph Valentino, taken by the famous Edward Steichen. And we've also received from individuals through the decades, and that's really how we're able to do this. DeMille family donated all of his photographs. The Hitchcock family donated the Hitchcock papers and film and other materials. So we're trying to cover the diversity and the complex nature of motion pictures throughout. We even have Alfred Hitchcock's doodles on the back of what was it, a menu or a placemat for one of the sequences.
And when Academy Museum will be built, there'll be a lot of interaction with you.
Oh, absolutely. We've sort of been the museum in waiting.
Yes.
We have been acquiring the material that they will use, and that
you will loan them.
We will loan them. We'll still be here giving everything the proper housing and temperature conditions. And the museum will have that as well for their exhibitions. And this will make the material accessible to an even wider audience, which is great. Because this is not a private art, it's a very public art, and we want to help make it that way.
Designed by the famous Italian architect Renzo Piano, the Academy Museum will open its door in 2018. He designed this extraordinary 3-story building, partially encased in a glass dome, to preserve the historical heritage of Hollywood. From 2 different cinemas, one holding up to 1,000 seats, the other 141, to a rooftop terrace with extraordinary views of the city, to a film history gallery, all to be toured. But before we leave the Academy Archives, I want to show you 3 precious heirlooms that Anne, the graphic arts curator, has set out for us to see.
So this is an example of a costume design drawing from our collection. This is Anthea Silbert's drawing for Faye Dunaway in Chinatown. A really quite lovely piece with some wonderful fabric swatches that give you an idea of the exact kind of color and the material that they used for this costume. This is Pacino in The Godfather Part 2. This is a really quite lovely drawing by Theodore Van Runkel for The Godfather Part 2. So this final piece is also from a Hitchcock film. This is perhaps one of my very favorites from the Robert Boyle papers. Boyle was Hitchcock's primary production designer, art director on many of his productions. And this is from The Birds. And this is kind of that key scene toward the end of the film where the birds have gotten inside the house and they're attacking the family that is in it. And to me, this drawing just, like, it encapsulates all the chaos that you feel when you see that movie, which just scares me to no end. And then we've got this really nice little color palette where he's probably just cleaning off his brush as he's doing this very quick work.
Yet there's another Hollywood that works behind the scenes and has the power to decide even the destiny of actors, films, and awards. This is the Hollywood of the press, of the news, and media that resonate worldwide. The first among them all, Variety. We'll discover it in the next episode.